Don't forget to follow us on our social media pages. Like, share, and subscribe. This podcast is sponsored by the following. Remington, made with pride in the USA. Iconic American impact. Wenig custom gun stocks. Head on down for your custom fitting. Remember, winners shoot Wenig. Shot Tracker, like having a coach on your barrel. For more info, go to takeaimtech.com. Life is too short to miss. RM Shooting Clinics, helping shooters from coast to coast. Have Ricky take your game to the next level. Zach Nanini at Northwestern Mutual. Trusted advice from someone you know. We believe in putting people first. Other supporters for Trap Talk. The Nevada State Trapshooting Association. Don't miss their 75th annual state shoot this October in Las Vegas. The NSTA puts on some great shoots, and they're going big for this year's state. Go to nvtrap.com to check out their program and all other shoots as well. Welcome to another episode of Trap Talk. Today we have the honor of our guest, Dustin Klein, and we also have our co-host, Richard Marshall Jr. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, Rick, would you do the honors of introducing Dusty?
Yep. We got Dustin Klein. I call him Dusty, better known as Big Boy, around the country, even though he is smaller. But so Dusty's a four-time junior All-American. He is the 2006 ATA Clay Target Champion and the 2006 Nebraska Cornhusker Cup High School Champion. So Dusty won the Cornhusker Cup. Of course, his senior year, he was 18. He also broke 300 straight in the single shoot-off that year. But better yet, he won the Clay Target that year when he was 18. So Dusty also, I think, led this nation with a 96-87 all-around average as a junior. And I think that record still stands, but it's hard to try to find some records nowadays. So we'll double-check that. But welcome to the show, Dusty.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, I don't know if it still stands, but at the time, you were the youngest to ever win the Clay Target. Is that correct?
I believe so. I think that was the case, yeah.
Yeah. And I know there was a younger gentleman, I don't remember his name, and won a couple years ago. We were trying to find out, but he's the only one that I could think that was kind of close in your age group, because I remember watching that shoot off back then in 2006. That was the first Grand at Sparta.
Yep. Yes. Yep.
So Dustin, that being said, tell us a little bit more about your shooting story, how you got started. Does your family shoot? Were you the first one? Just kind of let the listeners know a little bit about you.
So starting out, I was a pretty normal Midwestern kid, hunting, upland, waterfowl, stuff like that. I started actually, shooting a gun pretty young, about 9-10 years old, doing a little bit of hunting upland in South Dakota and stuff like that with Dad. Then I actually was a baseball player. So I played baseball up until like 12 years old. Dad and I kind of got into a little bit with the coach. And at that time, we decided hey, it's time to go shoot full time, so we hit the scene. After kind of the baseball deal, I did the junior high stuff for Fremont High and through high school. The school program in Nebraska that's pretty dang big now, nowadays.
Yep.
Did that. And in 2001 was my first ATA registered target. It was Missouri State shoot. So
nice.
Well, at least you started in a good spot.
Yeah. And for the family deal, actually, my dad's uncle is Brian Pritchard. Brian Pritchard is also a Hall of Famer in Nebraska as well. When my dad's dad passed away, when he was 16, Brian took him around to a few shoots, around Nebraska, to get his feet wet. Anyways, so
yeah, Chubbs. Your dad Dwayne, but he goes by Chubb Klein.
Right.
Everybody's like, what? Like, yeah, that's his nickname, Chubbs. So I mean, I've known you and Chubbs. I mean, heck, I remember when you first started shooting, but you also were inducted to the Nebraska Hall of Fame at a young age. And I think I was inducted when I was 23, and I think you were either 23 or 24.
Right. Yep.
To be inducted, and people will look at that, and I know I felt that way when I was inducted. It's like, this is kind of for old people, but you had a great success early on, and I know you used to come around. I mean, I remember you running around at Vandalia, you and Kelsey Zahar and
Yep.
Corey Cogdill.
Yep.
All you kids would run around and stuff, and I did a little like, I don't remember what it was, like a 30-minute or hour clinic at the practice trap with you guys, and your dad's back there, tell him to speed up, tell him he's got to go faster.
Yeah.
Because Dusty was like the slow golfer that everybody was bitching about this year at the Masters,
Right.
and the play was so slow, and that was Dusty when he shot, Zach.
We don't call it slow, we call it deliberate.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Here was the best part of it was B.E. Morrissey, and God rest his soul. He's a legend trap shooter and from Nebraska. And B.E. came up to me. He's like, Rick, you got to do something with him. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I get a cattle prod. So, but Dusty, he progressed. And then you used to travel around with the late Mike Mertz.
Yep.
And I don't know, Zach, if you remember Mike Mertz at all.
I don't know if I do. I know B. Morrissey, but not Mike.
Mike was, he was a longtime shooter from Nebraska, and he used to haul Dusty around. And one of the famous stories with Mike and Dusty is we're at the I think it was the Spring Grand.
Yep.
Tucson.
Spring Grand.
It was like the second year. Was that third year? Maybe, whatever. Dusty's young. He's flying home, but Mertz got done shooting, and Dusty was staying with him. Right in the middle of the parking lot is a suitcase, a gun case. That's it. Dusty was out shooting. Mike was leaving. He just threw his stuff out on the ground and drove off.
Yep. Mike had a bad day that day.
We'll just said, I'm out.
I remember driving through the parking lot. I'm like, who leaves a gun? I was like, that's big boy's gun case. I turned around and here comes Dusty chugging along. So it was good times.
Thanks to Jim Bradford for taking me to the airport that day.
Yeah.
Or I would have never made it home.
It's always nice to get a ride from someone. But so obviously you had a lightning quick start. How young were you when you picked up a shotgun the first time? Like for trap?
For trap, he was around 10, I'd say, yeah.
So when did it get to a point where you were actually competitive? I mean, was it 13, 14? Was it before that, or?
It was probably around that 12 mark, probably 11, 12.
You were hanging in your own category around that 12, 13 area. And then from there, by the time you hit 15, 16, were you pretty much able to get in the dish on any given day?
Yeah. I mean, that Missouri shoot was 2001. So, I was, around 12 years old at the time.
Okay. So, that being said, you singles, I've known you to be one of the best single shooters that I've ever known. I know your doubles are pretty good too. Handicap, was that, I mean, did you ever get 100 from the 27, or is that still something you're working on, or?
Nope, I'm still working on the 100. I've had a lot of 99s, had a lot of, first target misses and last target misses and ones in between. So
yeah, I mean, hey, it happens. But so you got two legs of it and working on the last piece. Okay. So for you, walking back to your mentality when you were moving up, going into that clay target year where you won it, you were, I mean, I watched you that year, and there wasn't 100 singles that you didn't run. I mean, every time it was like Dustin, Klein, 100. So what were you doing to get in the zone back then to break all of those singles?
So I'm repetitious. If you really watch me, I do the same thing, pretty much every time. Something I kind of actually picked up from a movie. right? It's a movie called For the Love of a Game. And Kevin Costner is a professional pitcher for the Detroit Tigers. And in that movie, you know, he kind of shows that when he's on the mound, you know, the crowd's screaming, yelling, you know, everything that he can, he says, clear the mechanism. That's kind of his saying, right? I don't say clear the mechanism, but I have my own little run through that I do when the guys before me are shooting, you know, their targets. I am able to, you know, kind of utilize that and get into the zone. Right.
I remember that. I remember that movie, and I remember that scene, and I love that movie. So you're not saying cue the mechanism, but with your process, what are you saying, or what are you thinking, or could you walk the listeners through that stage?
You know, I'm focusing out, like a soft focus out on the house. You know, I'm watching the other guys before me. You know, I'm watching their birds, stuff like that break. You know, I hear the calls, I hear the shots. They're just kind of faint. You know what I mean? And it's just my way of kind of getting to that zone. You know, I'm getting into that zone. I'm telling myself what I need to do, right? It's the run through that I have for every single shot that I do. And yeah, and muscle memory, you know, muscle memory is a big thing. You know, for me, I think it is for a lot of, you know, like you say, single shooters or whatever, right? It's repetition. I'm firmly, you know, believe in that.
Now, you are left eye dominant, correct? And
Yes.
you use a tube sight to be able to shoot two eyes, correct?
I am left eye dominant. I shoot two eyes, and I see two
Right-handed.
barrels. I see two barrels right in.
You see two barrels.
Yep.
So what do you do with so how's the tube sight help you?
So it helps me, you know, left angles, you know, quarter left, stuff like that, to try to keep my left eye from taking over. Sometimes it doesn't always work. Sometimes that my left eye is pretty dang dominant, and I have trouble sometimes where, you know, I'll go 200, 300, 400 straight, right? And then you'll see me to where I might lose it. I might miss two in a row. You know, it's the same bird, typically left angle of some sort. But I do shoot right-handed, and I do shoot both eyes open. I've just learned, you know, what to do over the years.
Now, what type of tube sight is it that you use?
I think they call it like the Eliminator. I get them from Tommy Larkin. In his trailer, he's supplied a lot of those to me over the years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and you need quite a few, because for our listeners, Dusty kind of he partakes in the typical trap shooter of buying guns, not trading guns. There's very few trades, thanks to, we'll give a shout out to Chubb's Klein.
Yeah.
You know,
we'll say Chubb and Steve Brink. We'll say that.
Yeah. There's Dusty is shot. I mean, you won the clay target shooting your Bowen sights, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And there's, you know, some of our listeners know about the silver sights. There was the original sights gun, which was made by Tom Sights, and those were a true pinned gun. They were a break open gun, but they didn't break down. You had to take the pin out. You know, there were several features to get the barrel off. Those guns, I think Tom Sights made 57, 58.
Yeah.
I think the last one was in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if it still is. Could still be there. But, and then Jerry Phillips started making silver sight shotguns, which were a true breakdown gun. And then Bruce Bowen started making the Bowen sights out of Omaha, Nebraska. And now he's up in, where's he at? He's up in Sturgis, yeah, South Dakota. So you shot the Bowen. Now, you've also shot Krieghoff.
We've shot
Razi, shot a Krieghoff. What are you currently shooting right today?
Today I am shooting the K80 top single.
Okay. Is that the color case hardened gold super scroll?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't know, you know, if we were trading soon or
with,
what.
With the gold choke tubes.
That's right. He's got the gold choke tubes, and that's a shout out for our buddy Justin Debris.
That's a Pimp Daddy gun.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful gun, you know. So I know you've shot top singles. Did you ever get into the unsingles at all?
Yep. When I was younger, I had a 10 RS. That was actually my first real, shotgun that I got for trap. Bought that from John Halford in Iowa. I shot that quite a few years. I shot decent. I was inconsistent though on the handicap. I shot it really well in 16s. I shot it really well on doubles. But that unsingle barrel, with me being left eye dominant, and the things that I got going on, an unsingle and I just don't really mix. Top single, I can see through the barrel, a little better with the top single.
So to spend some time on that, Dustin, I mean, you're the first guy I've ever talked to that said, I'm a left eye dominant, shoot right-handed, shoot two eyes. And you said, I see the two barrels sometimes.
Yep.
So when you're going to a shot, if two barrels come out, and what do? I mean, you just keep looking at it and shooting it's off of instinct and you know where the gun is, or what's going on for the shooters that might deal with this?
Yeah, I see two barrels all the time. It just doesn't just appear. It's just there all the time. I've learned the left barrel is the barrel to use, right? And like 16s, like my hold points and stuff like that, kind of they matter. I have to hold, like on 16-yard targets, I have to hold a higher gun. I look underneath the barrel. It's a soft focus, until I call and bird comes out, and then I lock onto it. And like I said, the left barrel is the barrel that I've learned is the one that breaks targets.
So you're actually seeing two barrels the whole time. And then
the whole time
when you go to the target, are you using the reference point of the barrel, or are you just looking at the target and shooting?
I'm just looking at the target. I'm just looking at the target. Yeah.
Okay. So the gun's kind of there, but you're really not saying, okay, I'm taking this unit to the target. It's kind of in the background and you're just shooting.
Yep.
Okay. Well,
he just trusts himself. That's what he's doing.
Really trusting your eyes to look at the bird and shoot. Now, do you let that target break the plane of the gun, or do you trap it like a Benias?
I let it break the plane. If you watch me shoot singles, and I was a little better at it, when I was a little younger, and shooting all the time. I don't shoot a lot, as you guys know, but back in the day, I'd had a little better, what do I want to say, trigger control, I would let that target break the plane of the barrel, and I would chase it and I would shoot it. Okay. Sometimes nowadays I get a little lazier and I wouldn't say trap the bird, but I cover it and I pull the trigger, sometimes.
Well, and I mean, and I've watched you shoot since that clay target to now. And I think when I was watching you break all those 100 straights, one thing I noticed about you was everything broke at the same spot across the field. So It didn't matter if you got a hard right or a straightaway, you were breaking it up in the air about at the same spot. And now what I'll notice about you is sometimes, like you said, if it's by the barrel, you're blowing it up. So, I mean, that's just the trigger control that you have, and that's just allowing that target up. And do you feel it was better the way you were doing it back then, or?
Yeah, I believe back then, especially when you get windy conditions, stuff like that, when, on 16s, it really doesn't bother me that much because I have that control, and I can still, if I get to the grand, and I got a couple, rounds of 16s underneath my belt, I still feel myself to where, if the wind's blowing, I can hold off, I can hold off and see, get to the target, make a good move to it and pull the trigger.
You're a pull trigger guy, not a release?
Yep. Nope. I'm pull all the way through.
Pull all the way. So
he's not that old yet.
Shifting that to handicap and doubles. Are you still above the house in those games, or are you lower?
I'm not as high on handicap. I do bring it down a little bit, but I still same process. I'm looking underneath the barrel or looking through the barrel, and waiting for it to clear the barrel and then chase it.
I see. So you're at least a couple feet above the house in handicap and several more feet above in singles.
Yes.
And doubles is the same way. You're sitting
same where first bird. Yep.
Same where in singles, you may be 4 or 5 feet above the house, letting it come to you, break plane, shoot, and then eyes move to the second shot.
Is that just easier for you doing it that way versus being down in the house so your left eye doesn't take over?
Yes. Yep. I feel that I don't know. I mean, I don't know if technically it's the best thing, but it works for me. It works better for me than to chase it from the house.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you're probably the only guy in the world that I know that's successfully doing it the way you're doing it with the eye issues. So, like for me, and when I've had eye issues and had left eye dominance come, from the base of the house, it really does kind of mess me up. So I wonder if having that barrel more as a reference point with that top single is helping you in itself too.
Yeah.
It probably does. As an instructor, sometimes if people have eye issues, when I get guys that say, I want a trap special unsingle, I'm like, yeah, you might want to try the ACS, a little lower unsingle, or try the top single, I mean, that can help.
Now, all the guys that I know in California that shot top singles and shot flat rib guns, they were actually using the barrels to shoot. So like a Benitez, when I listened to him, he said, I'd hold up and he said he used to shoot on the house when he was really, really, really in his heyday. But later in life, he said, I'd come up and I put that barrel somewhere in the sky, and that's my reference point, and I'm watching the target come to the barrel. And as it's disappearing, I'm letting the shot off. I think that would be very hard to do with an unsingle or a high rib gun, right? Like just that reference point of physically trapping the target and using that. But I mean, there's not a ton of shooters out there shooting that way still nowadays, are there, Rick?
No, I mean, no, there really isn't. I mean, I don't see a lot of people holding a super high gun and trying to just go to the target. You gotta. My theory is, you see the target, keep the gun moving. It's better. But in Dusty's case, it works for him.
I mean, no doubt.
Yeah, and like Dusty said, he doesn't shoot a lot. He'll shoot the Nebraska State shoot occasionally, and the Grand. And he shoots with me in the Grand week. But even when I come back and shoot the state shoot, when I think it's every 5th year or whatever that I go back, we'll shoot. But Dusty's always competitive. He's got that competitive drive.
100%.
So, he can still throw up some scores, and Chubbs is like, oh.
Yeah. Chubs don't know what to do with that when you're just pounding them all the time, but it happens. So choke wise, are you pretty tight? I mean, were you shooting a full back then in the Boeing days, or were you more open when you were running all those singles?
Yeah, the bone was actually a little tighter than what I shoot nowadays, but I shoot a full in the K80 now. Back in the day, the bone was a little bit tighter, but
I think it was at 38 thousandths or something, if I remember right.
So you were just roasting those things.
Yeah, they blew up.
And you were back then, wasn't it AA shells, or what were you using?
Remington STS.
STS. Oh, the good stuff. Okay, I like it. So going from then to now, I mean, you were shooting all the time, traveling around the country, doing it, and now you've got a family, you're running a business, you come out and you shoot and have fun, but trap shooting is more in the background for your life versus it was the front of your life back then. What do you do to stay in it now and stay competitive? Are you writing goals? What's changed from now to then in your life, shooting wise?
I still have goals. I have goals that I've written down from way back when, that I'd love to be in the ATA Hall of Fame, one day. Gonna have to shoot a little more to do it, and I understand that. But it is a goal of mine. Make the men's All-American team, in order, and it all requires just shooting more. You know what I mean? I firmly believe I could do it, if I got the targets in, and stuff. Having a family, having a job, it slowed down quite a bit. Like Ricky said, I shoot Nebraska State shoot, I shoot the Grand occasionally. Dad and I will go down to the spring Grand, and have fun. So
now, Dusty, for the listeners, so you shot, you got a family, got a couple kids. your wonderful wife, Gentry, as I
Yeah.
must call her.
Yeah.
Now, explain to everybody what you do for a living.
So I am the chief operating officer of Midlands Mechanical Inc. We're a commercial plumber and HVAC contractor. So we do the plumbing and HVAC on hospitals and schools and large commercial projects in Nebraska and in Colorado.
So you're busy a lot. You're on the road. You travel back and forth to Colorado,
Yep.
all over Nebraska and such.
Yep. Yep.
So that
I
takes
do.
away from, having a family to it.
Yep.
Gentry might get a little pissed. You go on the road. Hey, I'm going.
Yeah, I
on
got
break.
a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old keep me pretty busy with the job. So, like I said, one day I'll be able to come back. I'll be able to do some more shooting. But right now, it's build career, and provide for the family.
And that's a great thing because you're still shooting, right? You're still involved. Yeah. It's not like you gave it up completely, and you're still able to shoot pretty impressive scores. I mean, every year at the Grand, I see you run 100 pretty much. So it's not like you don't know how to shoot. It's just you got to get some more shells back in the gun again.
Hey, I even won the AA champion in the high overall last year at the Grand.
Yeah,
so I was pretty pumped, man.
I don't know how the heck he got into AA, but
I don't know either, but I did.
Yeah, you got
check the averages.
You got a clay target winner, clay target sandbagger going AA. Come on.
Yeah, check the averages. Check them.
Yeah. Bob Felber said the averages spoke for themselves.
Yeah, I think Felber's was the one that classified. He usually does.
So with back when you were really doing it heavy, I mean, right now you're having fun and shooting, but were you training up to tournaments? Were you just going into tournaments? I mean, what was your training regiment, practice regiment looking like when you were really starting to get serious?
So when I was shooting pretty good and making the junior All-American team, and stuff like that, like Ricky said, I was traveling with Mike and Gene Mertz. God bless them. They took me under their wing. They were my second parents. I traveled around with them in the motorhome. I hopped from pretty much the Midwest, doing the shoots. I really hit about 5 to 6 shoots, back in the day, and I was able to make the All-American team, doing that.
You did go to the Great Lakes Grand.
Yep. We went to Great Lakes one year. Yep. But I did. We hopped around, from shoot to shoot. We pull, pack up the camper and head to Wyoming, South Dakota, Minnesota, stuff like that. Hit those shoots. So I wasn't practicing a lot, back then. I still don't practice a lot now. I'm lucky if Dad and I will go down to Lincoln Trap and Ski, and shoot 25 shells or 50 shells, right? Yeah. And if I'm breaking them, then I just quit. I don't push it any further than that. And then Nebraska State shoot is my first shoot, so I usually run down to the practice trap, and shoot 25 targets before the first 16. So
there you go.
That's pretty much.
And then Chubbs goes out and shoots, and he's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, hey, Chubbs, you gotta practice.
Yeah, I mean, so now different than then, but then you were shooting so much that it didn't require as much practice because the gun was hot. But but if you had to work on something, you'd go practice and work on it and find your fundamentals until it was dialed in. But once you found the spot, it was the spot. And I would say, watching you shoot, Dusty, are you more like a natural at it? I mean, I know you said you played baseball, so you probably have a little more hand-eye coordination than like an Italian like me. But was it more natural for you, or was it something that you had to really work at?
No, it was a little more natural for me to be able to pick it up and to shoot. We didn't shoot a lot of practice. We really didn't. We just hit the shoots, and blew up targets. I mean, it did come naturally.
You got the competitive background that kind of pushes people through, not shooting as much practice. Now, in baseball, what position did you play?
I was second base.
I figured you were shortstop, but
Second, I played a little shortstop, but yeah, I was mostly second base.
So you had to have good hand-eye coordination, and that's what helps in shooting. Of course, as we all know, it does help.
I think it does. I just think there's a
Yeah.
few people that I see. There's people that maybe don't have that end as much and work on it a lot more, or there's people that just kind of have that naturalness. I mean, like we interviewed Matt and Foster Bartholow, and Foster will swear like it was more natural for him. He picked it up and he just did it. And then Matt would say, I was really slow to start, but I worked on this, this, and this, and I put all this effort in, and then I started to see, the results. And then, I think there's like the anomalies where there's like your Leo Harrisons where they have the talent and they put in the work, and it's just like, what do you do, right? Like what?
Right.
I mean, when you have a talented person that works at it, I think it's really, really hard to beat them.
And I've been really blessed over the years, in my shooting that I've got to be able to shoot with really high caliber people. Ricky, for one, I've shot with Ricky a lot. I shot with Leo, at the Iowa State shoot. Al Tominitz, I've shot with Al Tominitz, at Missouri State shoot. B. Morrissey. I shot with some pretty high caliber guys. And I think that that helped as far as me learning the ropes, and what to do, what not to do, stuff like that. I took a little bit from about each person,
Yeah.
So,
Which helps.
Going into that, I mean, shooting with Ricky, shooting with Leo, you're there, you're shooting with them. What does that feel like? Because there's a lot of people that'll never get to shoot with Ricky, never get to shoot with Leo. What is that like? And how did you take those tidbits away?
It's a blast for one thing, and I want to beat them, every time. Right. I just have that competitiveness to me, but, yeah, I mean, you're also nervous. You know what I mean? You're nervous to be on the squad. You don't want to be the guy, that screws them up, your misses, and screws up squads and, whatever. But, Rick's always, he's always told me it really don't matter, man. Just shoot the targets, your targets,
Yeah.
Shoot when it's your turn.
Never fun to be low man on a big dog squad.
Oh, I've done it. Definitely,
See, Dusty, Zach wants to shoot with us during the Grand Week. And I'm thinking it's probably not a bad idea because, it'll be Team Nanini dinners and booze. I mean, Rich Bullard will love it too.
I will bring a lot of bourbon. So that's a done deal. We can handle that for sure.
I'm sure we joke around quite a bit.
It's a lot of fun. So far I've been shooting the preliminary week with Ricky and also my co-partner Rich Bullard, also known as RBO8, and we've been having a good time. But we're trying to make like a 2-week experience. That way we don't like miss out on Ricky that second week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just, you know what? They just needle and needle. I'm gonna have to start charging, Dusty. I mean, that's the thing I can think.
You do charge me. It's called pre-squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pre-squad and the lunches, we got it covered. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So Dusty, is there anything else that you think is valuable that you want to tell either new shooters or experienced shooters or anything that you think we're missing today?
The youth shooters in Nebraska,
I would say finding the right equipment. When I talk about taking certain things from people, you got to find what works for you. It's what Ricky doesn't work for me, all the times, and that's okay, and young shooters just need to understand that. I think they need to have multiple coaches, that talk to them, and help them through. They can take different aspects and kind of make it their own, and I really am a firm believer in that, you got to find what works. You got to be comfortable, you got to be confident. Be confident in yourself, be confident in your scores, know that you can run with the big boys,
Yeah, that's everything. And I think what's really hard for some people, I mean, we've all taught at some level, is you have people that haven't done it yet and they don't have that confidence, right? You have to believe that you can do it before you really can do it. And me and Rick were talking the other day about looking backwards. Like you said, you ran the 400 straight, and he was like, well, I already ran 100 straight from the 27-yard line this week. I can do it again today. And I think it's finding those little things that you've already done and stacking on top of them to build that confidence. Because sometimes you just don't have it. I mean, I remember when I was starting, I just didn't have it. I'm like, man, I gotta, you run 5, and that's where you start building your confidence. But
hey, I still do that. We've been in shoot, Zach and Dusty. We shot some shoots where the horrible weather, and you're out there, you're like 4, and you're like, yeah, dang, let me break a 5.
Just want to break 5. Just want to break 5.
And like I tell people, it's baby steps.
It is.
Don't worry about the end score. Worry about the task at hand.
I was just in Florida, and I had one of my worst rounds of handicap in a long time, and I went 2, 2, 2 the first 3 posts, and I was like, I was clawing for something to grab on. Hey, luckily though, I hit more on that back 10 than I did on the front 15. I was dialed in. I got 9 out of 10 on those last 2 posts, but it was not pretty, guys. I mean, but you get your confidence back, you get your bearings, and then you're back to the races. But sometimes when the wheels come off, right? I mean, like you said, you'll go 400 straight, and you'll miss 2 or 3 in a row on the left side because the eyeballs go cattywampus, right? I mean, that's a problem.
It's what it feels like, anyways. But
it's no fun.
Well, and like Dusty's saying here, I'm going to elaborate a little bit about the confidence for all the listeners and the viewers. Is you got to be confident. Some people there's some shooters that they think, oh, they're just being cocky, or and most everybody's just being confident. Okay. And if you're not confident, why are you out there? You're out there to win. And that's why, when I step up to the line, I want to break target. Does it happen all the time? No. Does it happen quite a bit of the time? Yes. But that's because I'm confident. I try to tell all these youth shooters, and even some of the older listeners. I've spoke to some people here recently that have called me about lessons and listened to our podcast, and they're asking some questions. And I've had guys, I don't want to sound dumb. There's no dumb question. So for everybody out there, if you got any questions, submit them, send them in, text them. My phone number is all over my website at richardmarshalljr.com. My phone number is there, email, do it, or send them to the Trap Talk. Zach gets them. We go over them, look at them, and we'll do question and answer stuff. And but have fun. That's always been my rule. And as Dusty knows, Zach knows, we've all shoot together quite a bit. We're gonna have fun.
We do have fun, and I think with that confidence, I think the biggest thing for younger listeners is just know your audience, right? Like that cockiness, I think, comes with you saying things that are a little bit off the cuff, or maybe saying, oh, I'm going to beat your butt today to somebody that's been doing it for 25 or 30 years. That's a top guy. I think for me, whenever I was coming up and I seen Ricky Marshall, Leo Harrison, I was confident. I wanted a piece, but I'm not going to pop off to him either, because you don't want to wake those sleeping dogs, right? You want to kind of leave them dogs lie where they are. But I think that there's a fine line, and Dustin, you did a great job of that, because you had a lot of poise when you won that clay target. You weren't, you were confident. We could tell that you knew what you were doing, but there was never a time where anybody said, oh man, that guy's cocky. Like you had a poise about you and a step to you that you just felt comfortable doing what you were doing. And I think that's really, the optimal zone, because there are too many people that either aren't confident at all, or they go like super cocky off the rails, and they're just, and that's where it gets a little uncomfortable, I think, for people. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'll never forget that shoot off under the lights at Sparta. I mean, you were turning those things into black clouds, and it was like, poof.
And I remember Chubbs Klein stood behind you on every post.
Yeah, Dad does
5 to 1. He'd walk in front of us. I'm like, Chubbs, move out of the way.
Hey, that last target, though, when it was time to win, there wasn't any pieces left. You hit that thing with authority and prejudice.
Do you remember who runner-up was that year, Dusty?
Chad Blanke, wasn't it?
Blanke.
Yep.
Yeah, from Wisconsin. Chad's a good guy. you know, he
I was
just
trying-
got on the wrong end of the stick shooting with the single specialist.
It happens. Is there anyone you'd like to thank, Dusty? Is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
Of course, I'd like to thank my dad, Chubb. Without him, none of this would be possible. My family as well, Steve Brink, for supplying all those guns. Thanks, Steve. Game Masters. So,
Hey, make sure, Steve, make sure you give the discount on the next scroll that Dusty buys for the shout out on Drop Top.
yeah.
I'm sure Rick will hook it up for you.
Chubbs gets the discount, all right.
Yeah. I think we're done. I think we're done here.
Oh
No more guns. No more guns.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we got to thank our show sponsors. Obviously, Remington, Wenig Stockworks, Shot Tracker, Richard Marshall Jr. Shooting Clinics. You got to have it. And hey, if anybody needs a financial guy, I'm your guy, Zach Nini, right here. So that being said, it's been really fun. I know the listeners are going to love this episode. You're a high energy guy, Dusty, and I can't wait to see you at the next shoot. So we appreciate you.
All right, guys.
Thanks,
I
Dusty.
appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you guys too. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to Trap Talk.